Hi everybody, Szare here with my first ever video with voiceover, and I hope that I get this right. I hope that it's useful. I hope it's not too dense, but I'm not going to make any promises because I don't know what I'm doing. Um, I originally started out making a video here that was just going to be a little test of the new hero Lorenzo, and I made it for myself. I was going to make it for a few of my friends, and then when I got all the way through it, I realized this actually kind of something more interesting here than I originally set out to prove. So I decided to try my hand at making a video and share it with everyone. Hopefully you'll agree. Hopefully you'll find this interesting too. But let me just tell you kind of how I got started on this. Lorenzo, he is the new damage share hero. Damage share is a powerful mechanic. It's really good in Alliance War defense, PvP defense. And Lorenzo is one of only two heroes in the game now that can apply damage share at the start of the fight. If you're a whale like me and you get them to +5 awakening, that is potentially extremely powerful. But some people were kind of down on Lorenzo because they thought that he's a yellow hero. The other hero who can do this is Valerie. She's purple, and purple is the most dominant color in the game. I mean, just because purple is dominant doesn't necessarily mean that Valerie benefits from that. But yellow happens to be weak to purple because of elemental disadvantage. And so when you have purple being such a strong and ubiquitous attack team, and you have attackers like Idritha who can one shot better than almost any hero in the game, it doesn't matter how good Lorenzo's kit is if he's going to die immediately to purple attackers. And most people build their purple teams early, they invest heavily in them. So Lorenzo being weak to purple would be a big problem. Um, it looked to me when I got Lorenzo. I don't have Valerie. Part of the reason that I kind of invested heavily in Lorenzo is because I needed a hero like this. I didn't have Valerie, but I noticed, even though a lot of other people were worried about Lorenzo, that he has these huge bonuses from his awakenings, giving him bonus damage reduction against purple. It's almost like the devs saw this coming, thought about it, and said, okay, we're going to give him something. Um, and then I realized that this is going to potentially interact with these damage reduction bonuses that he and all other heroes are getting from their resonances. And I hadn't seen anything that, kind of looks at whether the conventional wisdom about elemental advantage and elemental disadvantage still holds true when you have these insane resonance bonuses and you have awakening bonuses. And that's what I ended up testing in this video. And what I learned was something that's really not just about Lorenzo, but it's about every hero and specifically every hero that has a high resonance. I'm going to jump over to my resonance bonuses here to show you what they are and start kind of demystifying this a little. But it's pretty surprising what ends up happening when we see the test. So here we go. These are my purple resonance bonuses. I don't have Valerie, I have Mildred instead. And so I'm going to be testing with her. I test with her instead of Valerie because they have the same bonuses from Awakenings. They both get negative 10% damage reduction from all sources. And so I felt like, testing with Mildred would be as good as testing with Valerie. Mildred's probably taking less damage than Valerie would because he's such a good defensive hero. So all colors are going to get more or less the same resonance bonuses. The top two, defense, penetration, and skill damage, that's specific to purple. But every color gets these. Attack, defense, max hit points, critical damage resistance, damage dealt, damage taken. Those bonuses are all shared. The big difference is that the damage taken from stronger element, well, the stronger element depends on your color. So in the case of purple, that'll be yellow. And in the case of yellow, it'll be purple, right? And then when you look down here at the damage taken from all the different elements, there are 5 of these. You'll notice it's all negative 16% except for one. And that happens to be, again, your stronger element. And I don't know if the devs knew what they were doing when they did this, if they accidentally doubled up on this bonus, but they're really giving, through resonance, 3 times the damage reduction, or at least up to 3 times the damage reduction against your stronger element that they're giving against every other element. I say up to 3 times and up to 48% because it's not clear how damage reduction works. It's not clear specifically whether it's additive or multiplicative. Now, What I mean by that is an additive damage reduction would be you take 16%, you add it to 32%, you would have negative 48% damage. So you do that math before you do the reduction. And you'd basically take, if you had 100 damage, you would subtract 48 and you'd be left with 52. I don't think that's how it works, but that would be additive. And that's why I say up to 48%. What I think probably happens instead is you have multiplicative bonuses that are applied at different times. And so if you have 100 damage and you have negative 16% damage taken from stronger element, you would reduce 100 to 84. And then you would take 84 and you would reduce that by 32% of 84. So you'd take 84 damage, and then your damage taken from yellow element, a different type of reduction, you multiply 84 by 68%. And I think that lands you at like 57 total damage. So there's a 5% difference. It's not huge. And for purposes of this test, you really don't need to worry your little head about it. Bottom line is, it's probably multiplicative, but for ease of reference, I'm going to say up to 48% damage reduction from yellow for purple. And as you'll see, my yellow resonance is not quite as high as that. Here we go. It's up to 47% here. You have negative 15% damage taken from stronger element is the main difference. There's also a little less critical damage resistance. And, that's important because when we fight this guy, and the reason I fight this guy is because he changes color, I want you to see that the results you're gonna observe have nothing to do with Lorenzo's other stats. He's got 4,500 defense. That's great. That's respectable. Mildred is a beast. She's got almost 6,000 defense. She's got 33% more defense than Lorenzo and better defensive stats in every other category. She's got this 10% damage taken reduction, same as Valerie from her awakening. She has 60% crit resist, and Lorenzo has less crit resist and none of that damage reduction. And he has less defense, right? The only thing that Lorenzo has more of is damage taken from purple bonus, right? He has more reduction to purple damage specifically than Mildred, but he has elemental disadvantage, right? And so the question is, how does that all play out? Like, does the damage reduction from purple offset or what? And here's the answer. It's a little hard to read. I apologize. And I'm also getting a shield from somewhere, probably from an artifact. I don't know how to turn it off. And I apologize for that. It's hard to read. So to prove that the numbers are what I say they're going to be, I'll show you their health after this skill. But Lorenzo is taking 256 damage to his shield, 304 to his health. That's 560 total. And Mildred, who has higher everything except for purple resistance, is taking 694 damage plus 80 to her health. That'll be 774 to her health, and then 390 to her shield. That's a total of 1,164 damage. That's more than double what Lorenzo is taking. And I mean, you'll see one more skill against them, and you'll see the results are the same. Lorenzo takes about 304 damage. You'll see in the upper right. And Mildred, like I said, 774 damage. She's taking a lot more damage than him, even though she's better at taking every kind of damage except for purple, which is completely counterintuitive. We do one more skill, and I'll pause it again. But the results are going to be the same. I mean, we're not looking at differences that can be explained by margin of error or randomness. Mildred taking 1,225 damage, and Lorenzo taking, this is a 329. He's taking a total of 547 damage. 40 to 45% as much as Mildred. It's not even close. So he's wiping the floor with Mildred here, and he will wipe the floor with Valerie too, because Valerie's going to have the same, probably slightly worse defensive stats than Mildred has. The bosses switched to yellow, if you didn't notice that. And before I sort of give you my final conclusions, I want you to see the difference on yellow damage, because this is interesting too. There we go. That's easier to read. 523 to Lorenzo, who is yellow, and 358 to Mildred, who's purple. So where's the elemental disadvantage? It's completely gone. Mildred is taking about 2/3 as much damage as Lorenzo. And what I think is happening here, first of all, we know Mildred is a better hero defensively. She has A third is 33% more defense. She has 10% overall damage reduction. I don't know if crit resist is factoring in here, but she has more of that too. Um, the uh, the big difference here is that she has that negative 48% or up to it damage reduction from yellow. So normally she would start out taking 200% more damage from this boss. But then with the negative 48% reduction, I think that drops down. They almost cancel each other out, right? That drops down to maybe 104% base damage from this boss. And then you factor in her defense, you factor in her damage reduction, and she is better than Lorenzo in spite of elemental disadvantage at tanking this boss. Now, I'll let this play out. I'm not going to keep pausing it. I'm just going to cut to the chase. The original question was, who's better, Valerie or Lorenzo? And I think the answer here is clearly Lorenzo's better at tanking purple damage than Valerie, right? That's easy. But he has another big advantage, which is he's tricky now. Most people, this is a very counterintuitive result, in my opinion. And most people who attack Lorenzo are going to expect that the best color to attack him with is purple, but it's actually the worst color to attack him with. And so they're gonna. A lot of people are in. The joke's going to be on them if they bring their purple attack team and waste it on Lorenzo. He's actually going to take less damage from purple than he takes from red, blue, green, and yes, even yellow because of his insane color-specific damage reduction. So that's Lorenzo, and that applies to a few other heroes too, which I'll come back to. I think the zooming out from Lorenzo, the bigger picture message here is that elemental disadvantage stops being a thing at a certain point of resonance. If you're fighting a hero that's level 230, elemental advantage is going to be trivial, and at 240 is almost completely gone. So it doesn't make any sense to pick a team, an attack team, based on color at that level. You should just pick your team based on who's the best team for the job. What are their kits? What are their skills? Which heroes counter which heroes best, and forget about elemental advantage because it's no longer relevant. The only way it is relevant, circling back, is with heroes like Lorenzo. And there are a few heroes like this who get awakening bonuses to damage taken. They get damage reduction from specific colors, almost always from their opposing color. So you've got to watch out for these heroes now because this is at high levels of resonance. The way in which elemental advantage is now relevant is it's flipped on its head. Heroes like Lorenzo and other heroes that get these color specific damage reduction bonuses, when they have high resonance, they're going to take the least amount of damage from their opposing color, which is a complete trap. It's totally counterintuitive. And if you know and your opponent doesn't know this, you can use it to your advantage. Hope that's been informative. Hope it was a little bit eye-opening and surprising. It surprised me. And I hope that this video wasn't a complete dumpster fire. Anyways, I'll see you in the game. Take care, everybody.